Still circulating fast in these guys, but here we go.
Angus Fogg slowing because Kane Scott's just gone past him. Well, how a championship can change. Fogg is definitely slowing out there.
The commentator's curse, I just said, the only objective he's got is to finish in front of the other guys. Now, is that a puncher? Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Right front tyre.
Wow.
Right front tyre for Angus Fogg. I was just about to say he was 6th with John McIntyre 9th. Still that 9-point gain, a 36-point lead. But that championship equation now drastically changes as Scott McLaughlin looms up the inside of Nick Ross.
He's got the run down the inside. He's going to have an overlap by the time we get to the braking marker. I don't think Nick's going to contest this. No, he doesn't. He backs out. Oh, Boothie in front, sideways. Did he make the corner?
He's locked up the brake. He hasn't gone down through the dirt. He's still sideways down through the second part of that sequence of corners. But we're going to have a new championship leader here very, very shortly, with Foggy limping around to pit and replace that damaged right front tyre on the LG Ford.
First and foremost, here he goes. He's slowing, no signs at all of slowing down. He's got to get the car back. The team got to turn that around, so he's going to drop right back to the order. He will finish the race, but I dare say it's probably 17th or 18th position. And like you say, the change in the championship, depending where Kane Scott finishes, but Kane Scott could be the championship leader coming after this race in this round.
Yeah, well, Angus Fogg's going to be careful that he makes the left-hander into pit lane as Scott McLaughlin now monstering the back of the Rock FM Holden. Holden's still 1, 2 and 3. Simon Richards, the first of the Fords on board. The second place, Scott McLaughlin, the super cheap racing Holden.
Now, Boothie is going to regret the decision to give Scott McLaughlin some training earlier in the championship. I think it was in Invercargill. I know he didn't give him here. Andrew Anderson going sideways.
That's out of the 10th position, and he's dropped in behind John Penny, who was 15th. So
now Scott's got to run on him here. Now what's he going to do? Boothie's going to come down the inside to defend. Scott will go high. Look for the crossover. Might get an absolute fly, which he has done coming on the back straight. Here's Angus Fogg's boys changing the tyre. It's been changed. It's going back on, so he'll be back out in a matter of moments.
Well, at the moment, he's going to be mired back there in the 18th position, which would give him 16 points. Kane Scott is likely to lead the championship. Boothie holds on to the lead down through the carousel. Scott McLaughlin looking very, very strong here. Nick Ross still isn't that far behind them.
Got to run down the inside here. Make anything of it? No.
Not close enough. Boothie is very strong under brakes at that part of the track. If you remember his pole time here, I think back in 2008, he had 100 degrees lock on the steering wheel. He had it backed in that hard to set pole.
Angus Fogg there just joining in this battle, but of course he's now a lap down after coming in to change that flat tyre. So say he'll be circulating back in the 18th position.
So Angus Fogg 18th, Kane
Here we go,
Scott.
lead for the change to the lead side.
He's muscled his way past.
Drag race, Boothie's still got the inside though.
Big lunge under brakes, he holds on to it. McLaughlin is right up underneath the rear wing of the Rock FM Holden. So John McIntyre is in 8th, Kane Scott is in 9th. Kane Scott will take over the championship lead. I don't know that John McIntyre's maybe got enough points to get ahead of Foggy, but boy, this championship has just got turned on his head in this race, with Craig Baird, a DNF in the opening lap, and Angus Fogg with a deflating tyre having to pit and replace, and he's gone down a lap and he's in the 18th position.
Now McLaughlin's got to run on him. Boothie come out of the corner a little bit sideways. What can Scott do? We know he's got car speed. Boothie is entitled to move across. He's making Scott do everything as hard as he can. Go around the outside. It's going to be a braking duel right now. Advantage, Andy Booth.
Yeah, McLaughlin was half a second faster on the last lap than the Rock FM Holden. Booth still with the lead. But Scott McLaughlin, he wants this first win before he heads back home to start his second Fujitsu V8 Supercar development campaign. Simon Richards in 4th, Martin Short 5th, Eddie Bell in 6th. Back on board with McLaughlin, and a slowing Matt Lockwood. Flat right front tyre for Matt Lockwood is the call we're getting.
Right, it's a bit of a common theme here, so it's some part of the track. There is something that's going on, is because these boys are cutting the curbs as much and hard as they can. And what they're doing is they're just picking up whatever it happens to be and cutting through the right front tyres.
Booth very, very narrow into 5.
Oh, McLaughlin just has got a blinder coming up there. Now he's down the inside.
On the rev limiter.
Unfortunately, that noise you heard, that's the limiter. The cars won't accelerate any more than that. So caught between a rock and a hard place at that stage.
He's trying hard.
Very hard.
Can he try and get a run this time out of turn number 11? Andy Booth with a fight on his hands. Not for the first time this season with young Scott McLaughlin. These two have gone at it, and pretty cleanly, you've got to say, too, for probably a good 3 or 4 races over the championship. A bit
of respect amongst all these fellas in here. So the race door handle, but they won't do anything that's going to compromise their position. Angus Fogg is somewhat frustrated behind Nick Ross there, but of course he's a lap down. Here we go.
Oh, John McIntyre sideways.
What's this going to do for Kane Scott? Can Kane Scott take advantage of this? No.
So they are 7th and 8th. Just 3 points difference between those two positions. So advantage still to Kane Scott for the round victory. Jason Bargwana now up into 10th though. Now there's a black flag out on the racetrack for someone there. We haven't heard the call on race radio as yet. McLaughlin to the outside of Booth down through turn number 1.
Nothing will come of this because it just becomes a drag race into 2. So unless you're going to have a big old charge nice and early, you can't really do a great deal in terms of passing there. But coming off turn 4, which they're entering right now, look for a run down the inside because we know Scott's quick. This is the run I'm talking about.
Yeah, Nick Ross with some damage to the left side of that race car, just the balance laying down on the racetrack. Now, we're just getting the call that that flag was for Jason Bargwana.
Wow, car 12, so that's a shame because you say he was in contention for the round honours after having that fantastic race win earlier in the day. So here we go.
Drive-through penalty. Now we don't know what that was for, but well, he was the round leader going into this final race, so that definitely advantages Johnny Mack and Kane Scott.
Certainly would have been over enthusiastic or aggressive at some stage of somebody else because here we go, Scott McLaughlin down the inside of Booth. He's got him.
They're
going to make contact. 1-2 hits. It's a drag race.
Side by side.
Now, who's got the best horsepower? I think at the advantage Andy Booth, but the advantage will be ultimately Scott McLaughlin's because he's got the inside running.
Yeah, still side by side.
Well,
door mirror to door mirror. Oh, they make contact.
Nick Ross. What's going to happen here? Nick Ross is going to...
Boothie's going to go down through the grass. He got sideways under brakes.
Now, let's let McLaughlin go. I reckon he can actually re-establish himself back in second place, exactly what he's done. I can't see any penalty have come of that because he went into the corner second, come out second.
New race leader, Scott McLaughlin.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah, can Andy Booth come back at him, though?
He's going to make life as awkward as he can. Look, right now, made contact. Boothie's hard on the brakes, the rear tyres are locked up.
He's done the Scandinavian flick.
Has across the grass, that's the only option he had.
McLaughlin through to the lead. Nick Ross slots back into third. Eddie Knight carrying all sorts of damage to the front of that race car behind Eddie Bell, and Knight up into the 6th position, and they've closed up on Simon Richards, so that's the cue for 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th, with Kane Scott now in the 8th position, John McIntyre in 7th. So Scott still with a small advantage points-wise for the round win, but he is the new championship leader.
Actually, I'll just jump in there if I can, Jamie, because Angus Fox still circulating up to 16th. At the moment, Angus Fox still has an 8-point lead in this championship.
Well, that's just swung back, literally in the last 2 laps, because he was back in 18th.
Correct, yeah, he's moving up, of course, with the demise of some of these other guys and drive-through penalties, so he'll take any advantage. Oh, here we go. Simon Richards has got a gaggle cars behind him, of which 2 are the championship contenders. So Eddie Bow there, of course, Andy Knight, he's a hard charger.
Well, this championship is just so close now. Don't go away, there is lots more to come. Now that's Angus Fogg going around. Now he was a lap down, not battling for position, but it's caused mayhem. Absolute mayhem in behind him.
Now, what's going to happen here? The boys are going to have to start working on exactly when the yellow flag come out and who took advantage of that. The yellow flag was out. Andy Knight passed Eddie Bow. Now, whether he'd gone through enough, here we go.
There's the big antifreeze replay. Fogg was actually trying to get by Nick Ross, locked up the rears.
Okay, so the yellow flag waving now. So any passing manoeuvres happen from this point onwards won't be allowed. So here we go.
It's a pretty hard one to call, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I think Andy Knight actually passed under the yellow flag there, so I think he's going to have to readdress that.
So the difference between us, Eddie Bell's now gone off. So he was up inside the top 5. Boy, oh boy, this is just...
It just changed. Here we go. First, second and third in the championship. But of course the LG car is a lap down after having to stop for that punch earlier in the race.
Kane Scott there for a little while did have the championship lead, but with Angus Fogg picking up a couple of positions, he's back into the championship lead.